On the art scene, using theater to teach valuable lessons to young audiences.
Ann Childress with the Virginia Department of Social Services. She asked if we'd be interested in writing the world's first play to talk directly with children about this issue of child sexual abuse.
Sharing Latin and Spanish culture through dance.
Something that makes the Latin Ballet special is Miss Ana. She is an absolute inspiration, an absolute powerhouse.
And learning African American military history from an artist who's been there.
With black soldiers, when they volunteered and they were integrated into those units, they had to remove their rank because they could not give an order to a white soldier.
Join us as our team of performers and artists celebrate the people and places that create art in Central Virginia. Next on the art scene. Hi everyone, I'm Halia Roberts and welcome to The Art Scene. I'm inside the Sarah Bell and Neil November Theater on Broad Street. This is just one of Virginia Repertory Theater's 4 performing venues. Virginia Rep is one of the largest performing arts organizations in the Commonwealth and is home to a musical play for children that has been performed in every school district in Virginia over the last 36 years. We'll show you more about that later on in the show. Up first, fine artist Frank Walker. Frank was born and raised in the Star Hill area of Charlottesville. He joined the Army after graduating from Virginia Commonwealth University's Fine Arts program, and as a young African-American soldier in the 1970s, he dreamed of creating art as a career. Decades later, he's using his extraordinary talent to teach audiences the truth about the African-American military experience.
Art, it babysit us. My mother would always give us lots of blank paper, from various organizations she was associated with. And my brother and I both would just sit there and draw and draw and draw and draw. So both of us ended up being artists. I am a firm believer that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I think that's probably got me in trouble more than anything. When we got those Tom and Betty workbooks, I was not interested in writing a sentence, but I was interested in emulating what Tom and Betty were doing and the dog and the ball. So I would draw in my book, and I got my knuckles spanked. So that kind of got me into the mode of telling my mother I was always sick when it was time to go to school. Of course, I went to fully segregated schools here up until 7th grade. We never thought about it because we were being separated from white students. Because the whole world was black, the whole neighborhood was black, school was black, There may have been some subtle differences, for instance, going to the movie theater where we had to sit upstairs in the balcony. I always said this, if you want to oppress somebody, you don't put them over top of you. So. As I got older and started building models, you take and item by item, piece by piece, build a soldier. When Grant went to Richmond at the end of the Civil War, that's who he met, was black troops. Confederate black troops. And most of them had been forced to fight, and their masters would recover their money. This is the 90s Desert Storm and the Iraq and Afghanistan War. This guy, if you look at his face, that's 50 Cent. Well, I joined the Army because we were all afraid of getting drafted because most of the draft boards were white. And so I joined it, and then the draft was over with. I think it was a great experience. I recommend it to every young man who can't figure out which direction to go. I got a break one day when I was out in the field, and I had drawn these pictures of some World War II weaponry. And a senior officer came through and said, he looked at my work and he said, "Do you want a job?" I said, "Sir, do you want a job?" He said, "I need a draftsman." And so I was whisked away from knee-deep in mud to a headquarters unit to work with some engineers, and they taught me how to be a draftsman. It was a dream job because I did everything from painting Walt Disney characters on day room walls to charts, graphs, and the whole 9 yards. And so when I left there, I came back here and went up to the university and got hired by a retired lieutenant colonel who was a director of art photography and television. And I don't think he ever looked at my portfolio. He just looked at my haircut. He said, "Come to work Monday morning." And there stayed almost 20 years. I love history. I love military history. I specialize in African American history. Growing up in school, we never learned much about African American history, very little, because we had to learn white history in order to get from one grade to the next. So the black history was excluded. And so my point in the last 10, 15 years was to account for what had been lost and tell various stories of African American struggle. I have this piece of the murder of Bootjack McDaniels that the photograph of it appeared before Congress in 1937. That picture happened to spark the anti-lynching debate. This woman who would have done day work would have done this night and day, probably 7 days a week, for pennies. Always being threatened, always being cheated out of your money if you're a sharecropper. It's been a process of reading, figuring things out, and why the government had done what it had done, and how people rose above certain things. What I think is incredible superhero stories of people considering what America had put in front of them. For instance, the soldiers behind you is depicting a 92nd Division, which would have fought in Italy. The difference there were with black soldiers, when they volunteered and they were integrated into those units, they had to remove their rank because they could not give an order to a white soldier. The 7 Congressional Medals of Honor were not given to black soldiers until 1994. I like all the different mediums I learned to use throughout my career. You had to learn to use different mediums to achieve a certain type of illustration. So when I was able to retire, I was able to do all the things that I always wanted to do. All my children were grown. I had some original G.I. Joes that I got from Woolworths up here on Main Street, and I begged my mother to buy me one. And then my brother and I discovered M80 firecrackers. Oops, G.I. Joe stepped on a landmine. You know, so he got blown up. But if you'll notice the face of this soldier, it's Don Cheadle. That's me. Paintbrush and a machine gun. 2 of the things I know well. I sleep in my glasses so I can see my dreams.
You can meet Frank Walker and see some of his inspiring work over Veterans Day weekend at the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center in Charlottesville.
Virginia Rep's Children's Theater offers an eclectic collection of classics like Cinderella and historical tales like Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. Theater that teaches is nothing new for this company. In 1983, the founding director for Virginia Rep wrote a play that is still running after more than 3 decades and seen by nearly 2 million children in Virginia. It's a play that uses the power of theater to teach some valuable life lessons.
So when you guys are doing your hugs and kisses hand claps, we're doing hugs and kisses, hugs and kisses.
Or plug to somebody just like this. A kiss is such a nice thing to give, to cling to cherish, to clasp another closely.
So Hugs and Kisses launched our Community Health and Wellness program. And through Community Health and Wellness, we create, implement, evaluate, and promote model projects that demonstrate how a theater can effectively address social and educational issues. So Virginia Repertory Theatre was founded in 2012 as the result of the merger between Barksdale Theatre, which was Central Virginia's first professional theater, founded in 1953, and Theater 4, which was founded by Bruce Miller and Phil Whiteway in 1975.
Families Forward Virginia has a great working relationship with Virginia Repertory Theatre in that we work to help children and work towards preventing child abuse and neglect. So that is at the heart of the Hugs and Kisses program.
In 1983, no one was talking with children about child sexual abuse. Ann Childress with the Virginia Department of Social Services called up Theater 4. And so she asked if we'd be interested in writing the world's first play to talk directly with children K through 5 about this issue of child sexual abuse. As it turned out, the performances were so well received that we in fact booked 170 performances that year, and we've continued to book 170 performances in Virginia schools since 1983.
I am your friend.
But, like all good things, sometimes hugging and kissing and affectionate touching are used in the wrong way.
And when you're a little kid, it can be hard to tell the difference between good touching and other kinds of touching that aren't so good.
Most big kids like us have learned the difference, but some of us learn it too late.
It follows a young girl who is being sexually abused by her stepfather.
And she's playing with her friends one day, and they just see that she's kind of uncomfortable with different types of touching, good touching, hugs and stuff.
And so the play follows her story, and it shows how she gets help.
At the end of the play, they find Gemma, they explain to her, they tell her that she can talk to someone and get help, and she does, and that's the best part of the story.
I played Katie. Katie, throughout the story, kind of realizes that she should be aware of what she's saying to people because she doesn't know what's going on in their lives at home. And I think that that's a good lesson to take in, is knowing that you should watch how you speak to someone or just not assume that you know what's going on with them.
The emotions are in the script, and that's one thing I always tell my cast: let the script speak for itself. You don't have to milk it. It'll stand up on its own. So having an actor portraying a child who's been sexually abused without, turning on the tears and all that, I think it helps us to better make the point that we're trying to make.
There's a few things in that question. First off,
You may not be able to stop it the first time.
Yeah, you may not be able to stop it the first time, but eventually you will be able to get away, and then you can tell a trusted adult.
The aspect of having kids come up and asking questions about this after the show was very daunting.
Because you never know, is a kid gonna raise their hand and blurt out a disclosure? But by the end of the show, I think all of us, that was our favorite part, was the Q&A.
What if you tell someone and they don't believe you?
You tell another trusted adult. You keep telling someone until eventually you will get the help that you need.
There it is, yeah.
So a lot of the times when the students raise their hands and ask our actors questions, it has something to do with, what do I do if this happens? And all of our actors know you need to turn to a trusted adult. So a lot of it is directed towards, who's that trusted adult in your life? You need to talk to them. Oh, I can be a trusted adult. Come talk to me, and then I will introduce you to another adult who you can speak to.
Hearing those little teeny voices out there in the audience ask these questions, they're paying attention, they're getting something out of it, and we hope And I think I'm safe in saying that some of these kids are learning how to protect
To
themselves.
recognize what secret touching is
Yeah.
and make sure that it stays out of your life forever.
Remember, secret touching is never the child's fault.
It's such a hard age because they don't fully understand maybe what's going on and what's happening to them. And so the play teaches them in an age-appropriate way what this is and what's going on and how to get help.
Once upon a time.
Hugs and Kisses has changed a lot since 1983 when we first started with it. And it's not like any of our other shows, which I think are wonderful, but just watching kids, when I go to see a show, one of our Hugs and Kisses productions, sitting in the audience looking around at the kids, they are riveted.
It's been seen by 1.9 million Virginia students, and for the vast majority of these students, it served as a prevention program that's delivered life-saving safety messages that help them keep sexual abuse out of their futures. But for approximately 1% of these children, so 19,000 over the last 36 years, it served as an early intervention program, and those children have come forward after the show to disclose a personal experience with child sexual abuse.
Families Forward is a really big part of this process. They're integral, and they help us set up with Child Protective Services that a social worker is present at every performance. It's a requirement. They also make sure that our teachers, school counselors receive a study guide, receive training materials for their teachers.
Bruises or cuts or scratches, it's important that you say no and that you talk to a trusted adult about how it's making you feel, and they can help you decide if it's secret touching or not.
I think the coolest thing about Hugs and Kisses is it really allows children to be empowered to say no.
You keep standing up for yourself. You keep speaking up and telling a trusted adult.
I have a good friend who always says that she believes that theater is the best way to promote empathy and sympathy, and I 100% agree with her on that, especially after performing with Hugs and Kisses and working with Virginia Rep.
This is the most important thing I've ever taken part in. I love Hugs and Kisses. I love taking it out there to the kids all around the state. Hope we can expand beyond the state of Virginia because it's just a terrific, powerful, moving, important show.
There's so much more that theater can do for people and for the world.
Doing something that not only entertains but helps people, it's a fulfillment that I didn't know that I could achieve as an actor, and that's just been the best part.
I think after 35 plus years, the entire state of Virginia public school system sees the value, and I think we've got a long life ahead of us still.
Hugs and kisses, a perfect way to say, I am your friend. Woo!
For more information on Virginia Rep's touring show, Hugs and Kisses, or any of their educational programs, visit their website.
For the last 22 years, the Latin Ballet of Virginia has spread Latinx and Spanish culture to a global market by combining ballet with flamenco, tango, and even hip-hop. We spoke with artistic director Ana Ines King about the importance of bringing these cultures into ballet.
Over. Can we all go over this part? You need to teach to. So I want to sit that way. That's what I want to see.
Y'all learning.
I cannot ask them. I am the slave.
I think what draws people in to Ana Ines King, working with her, is that she has a way of bringing out the beautiful in every dancer that she works with and every person that she meets.
Puts 110% into every production that she does, whether it's with the students, with the parents, coordinating the sets, coordinating the costumes, getting everybody ready to put the best foot forward in the best show.
Something that makes the Latin Ballet special is Miss Ana. She is an absolute inspiration, an absolute powerhouse.
She uses people's uniqueness, and she shows that off on stage.
I was interested in dance even when I was in the belly of my mama because my mommy was a dancer. Before I actually walk, she was showing me steps, and going down the steps, we will dance. I think when you dance, and also when you play an instrument, and also when you do your passion, what you like the most, automatically you feel proud.
And now let's do the rehearsal.
Latin ballet is very unique in the fact that we bring a culture that a lot of people don't understand and they don't know and they don't see the beauty in it because it's not in the mainstream, it's not in the forefront. We have a lot of students that are not, of a Latino background. So they come and they say, well, what is flamenco? What is merengue? What is bachata? And we can actually give them that so that they can in turn, each one teach one, go home and share that with everybody else as well. There's more to this than just ballet or modern. We can take those styles and kind of fuse them into our jazz, the Caribbean music, the Latin music, all of these things that fuse to make dance what it is for us.
There's just a vocabulary that comes with being in the Latin ballet classroom. It catches on. All the girls will use specific Spanish words for specific movements, and then sometimes we'll switch over to English.
It helps the Spanish-speaking students that are trying to learn English as a second language. It helps them feel more comfortable with English, and as well as a lot of the students that don't speak Spanish, they're there because their families want them to be submerged into the Latin culture and to learn some Spanish.
Ana is very passionate as a director and as a teacher. She's very, very in tune with the needs of the audience as well as the needs of the dancers and how to make it the best experience for everybody.
Her productions are completely unique. They're completely an interpretation of a story, her interpretation of a story through dance. And a lot of what she just wants to communicate is her passion and her love for dance. And I think something that she teaches that is not taught in pretty much any other dance school is how to be passionate and absolutely love dance. Every single one of our productions is a story.
It's quite amazing to see what she can come up with, just within a year, let alone within a day, a month, a week, and she can pull it all together very succinctly, very fast.
It's more fun to see like the whole history in dance, in a dance production. And it's unbelievable like how many people that they don't know that part of the history or the story from a book that we are saying, that they actually send me emails or texting asking where the music is from, why did you choose that music, and what is that this means this, and where can I find the book, things like that.
I think one of the best things about Day of the Dead and Dia de los Muertos is that we're used to these shows, but in our culture in Northern America, it's, Halloween is kind of just, dressing up in costumes and going around, but, for our Day of the Dead, it's more of celebrating the dead and bringing them into our homes every day and that they're never forgotten.
For Day of the Dead, we went over there with the company to learn how to do the Aztec ritual for Day of the Dead. And so it's really beautiful to go over there, get the instruments that they have, and learn from the real native telling us what is the inspiration and what do we have to do at that moment and feel at that moment. It's not the same being here and just talk about.
I
feel magical when I dance with the Latin Ballet, and especially when I'm telling these stories, because I know there's some girl in the audience who was me when I was that age going, what's happening? Oh, I love that. I can do that.
When I come to the Latin Ballet and when I perform and when we're dancing to pieces and when we're dancing in productions, it's about the story, and it's about sharing that story with the community.
Ana has taught me that you're not too old to dance and to live your dream.
When you dance, when you act, you have to be proud because you have to show who you are, tell a story with your body.
If you want to know more about any of the artists or organizations that we've profiled, go to their websites or follow them on social media for more information. If you have an event or story idea you'd like to see on the art scene, connect with us on social media or send us an email. Thanks for watching. Join us next time for more stories about the amazing art in your area. And remember, whether you see it, hear it, or make it, it's a part of the art scene.